Welcome to Paranormal Talk Radio with your host, KB. Brought to you each week by Kevin Shork, attorney at law. And now here's your host, KB.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is KB. We just don't talk to talk like the other guys. We walk the walk because we're Richmond investigators of the paranormal. And I tell you what, we got a lot of great things coming up in the next couple of weeks. Next weekend, we got a day in the park here in Ashland, Virginia, and one on the other side of Hanover County at the Paul Green Park. And the other one slips from mine, but I'll remind you all later about that. And bring the kids out. It's going to be a lot of fun. They're going to have food, candy, games, trick-or-treating, the whole 9 yards. And, hey, look, they're going to even have a drive-in, can you believe this? A drive-in movie theater out there with these guys. So, mom and dad, you can bring the car out there. You can throw the trunk up. You can throw the kids in the trunk. Mom and dad, you can even get up, put a little something on the ground to have a good time. But like I said, it's going to be fun. It's going to be great. And we got a lot of great things coming up. Hey, tomorrow night, we definitely got something coming up. We'll be at the Edgewood Plantation, Richmond investigators of the paranormal, and myself, KB, along with a very special guest, world-known Wilbur Allen, the top of the line, UFO paranormal research investigators. And we got a lot of great things to talk about tonight. And on the line, not on the line, what am I saying that for? Calvin's looking at me on the line. I got Wilbur Allen sitting here right beside me, looking dapper. And I got my producer, Kevin. He looks a little under the weather, but he's going to be okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me, Ken.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Wilbur Allen. I'm a UFO researcher, and I started researching UFOs technically in the year 2002 when I had a close encounter at the U.S. Capitol building. And I looked into the technology to the possibilities of the technology to capture UFOs, right. And I found a technology that was used by NASA in space. And I applied that technology to my work in the field of UFO research.
Well, you have a lot of other things going on also. You do some television stuff, help out.
I've got 3 shows actually on the market right now. I've got My Big Redneck Vacation on Country Music Television.
That sounds like Calvin.
And I've got Uncovering Aliens on the Discovery Science Channel, American Heroes Channel, and Animal Planet. And on NBC Universal, the Weather Channel, I've got Twisted Believers Tornado Alley.
That's how I'll tell you. Tornado Alley, I've watched a few of those, and them things are interesting and all that. And like I said, we got some great stuff to talk about tonight. We're going to be talking about an Area 51, and a lot of people don't know about an Area 52. And we're going to be talking about all aliens among us. Well, we're going to find out tonight. And he's got a website, which is UFODC.com. Yeah, I don't scratch on that piece of paper there from my ink pen. But yeah, so we'll be talking a lot of things that explain to people the technology and some of the equipment that you might use in your research.
Well, I looked at what NASA was using in space, and right now at the International Space Station, NASA is using a D3S Nikon, which is 51,000 ISO. Well, I'm using a D4 and D4S, which are 204 800 ISO and 409 600 ISO, which is extremely sensitive type technology. In fact, it's in the same par as the Hubble telescope in terms of its overall sensitivity. So I'm using this technology, which is essentially full color night vision, to document, as we saw tonight, anomalous objects.
Yeah, we sure did.
Which are 100% consistent with what we saw tonight.
Yeah, like I said, the first one I've ever seen, I've seen the cigar-shaped object in there many years ago when I was a young lad. I was about knee-high to a grasshopper. And the night he was out doing his thing, and first one I've ever seen, it actually, to me, it went by so fast, it looked like in the mid of the air, like a flashlight, zoom, it went by that fast. And like I said, that's the first one I've ever seen, and I was totally amazed, because you spotted it, you told me about it, then I turned around and looked, and I saw it, and I was totally amazed. Now, this technology that you'll be using, will this be the same technology that we'll be using on the Edgewood Plantation for the?
Oh, it is exactly the same thing we're going to be using, because what I have here is a technology that has an extremely sensitive. Its sensitivity to light is extraordinary, and it does not require any light at all to actually take a photograph. And I'm basing that on the fact that if there is indeed paranormal energy in that area, that energy will translate into some sort of light. and the camera will definitely pick it up.
Well, I'm amazed. Like I said, we're doing something that nobody else has ever done before, ladies and gentlemen. We're actually doing a UFO research investigating tonight, tomorrow night, and a paranormal investigation all at the same time. It's never been done. And this is totally new, and it's fascinating. I'm really excited about it.
No, we saw firsthand that there is indeed activity in this area, and the airspace that we're in, which was above your home, clearly indicated that whatever those anomalies are, if I'm being followed, it definitely showed itself up.
Well, I'm telling you what, I'm glad they're following you instead of me, because I don't know if my nerves can stand it. Tell the people a little bit about Area 51. I know you've been out there.
I did a big redneck vacation, and they hired me to lead the expedition into Area 51. And it was really interesting because I was not interested in the base itself. I was more interested in the airspace. And in the airspace, I documented these two anomalies that looked like sperm cells. And they slithered like snakes as they flew through the air. And I documented that. What was even more abstract is that one of the anomalies communicated to me telepathically and instructed me to leave the desert immediately.
Told you to leave?
Leave immediately. And within 1 minute of getting back to my crew van, 80 security personnel from Area 51 arrested my crew.
Whoa.
So the aliens warned me of the humans.
So you have this contact with aliens, and I guess it's mental telepathy. What do you call it? Mental.
It's telepathic
That's
communication.
it. That's the word.
Exactly.
See, my tongue got kind of swollen up there, so I couldn't think of that. But yeah, I find that fascinating. So you actually left the site. Your crew members got locked up, and you
within 1 minute.
Within 1 minute.
1 minute of this anomaly warning me to get out the desert. So we documented all of that. What's even more abstract is an hour later at the hotel, I set my camera behind my hotel room window, and I said, well, okay, show yourself to me. And it appeared on video. Instantaneously.
Now, your research takes you, I guess, all over the world, because I know you've traveled all over the world, and I do know this. Now, what's your opinion on aliens back thousands of years ago? Do you think
they're here?
They're here?
They've been here. They've been here. And all of the cave drawings and all of those things that indicate types of extraterrestrials which look exactly like the grays that we're familiar with from 5,000 and 10,000 years ago, that says to me that these aliens have been here. So we're just now starting to see the realities of the other life forms that are indeed in our galaxy.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've seen some of the drawings and things like that, and it would amaze me that how did these people thousands of years ago would draw a man in a spacesuit, like similar suits that our astronauts wore back in the 60s when John Glenn and everybody went to space, and they had they look like the same type of headgear and things like that.
Well, it's interesting, if you look at some of the Egyptian hieroglyphics, and it's interesting that in some of those drawings that are in those pyramids, it looks like there is technology that's used today by the United States military drawn on those walls. So it makes you think about the possible technology that the U.S. military is using in terms of time travel technology, which it could be very well indeed in use right now in our civilization. So we just don't know about it.
A lot of people that heard the name before called wormholes. Explain what a wormhole is.
Well, it's interesting. That was one of the things that my partner, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, who was the lunar module pilot for Apollo 14, discussed in a lecture I had in Princeton 2 years ago. And basically, what it is a form of travel in which these extraterrestrials are using a technology which enables them to travel millions of miles in a short period of time. And it essentially brings point A and point B together. And in theory, it's called a wormhole. And it is indeed a reality based on the samples that I'm able to obtain over my home on a nightly basis, 7 blocks from the White House.
Now, over the White House, you and I were talking earlier part of the day. We're talking about the 1950 movie that came out. The
Day the Earth Stood Still.
Yeah, and a lot of the things that happened in D.C., you have had similar experiences in D.C. with photographs, which I've seen, that looks like, wow, it's happening all over again. And the technology, it makes you wonder, how did these producers of these shows decide something like this? Like you had Gork the robot, and they talked about laser beams and things like that. And there, what I understand is that laser beams are being used in that effect. And
well, a lot of that, it's almost science imitating life. And in reality, what the deal is most of the technology that we're using today is actually a spin-off from Roswell. Cell phone technology, optic fiber, laser technology, integrated circuits, all of those technologies that we think are made by man are essentially assimilated from crashed extraterrestrial spacecraft.
I've had people ask me before, how could you tell, or if you think your neighbor, or like Calvin, for instance, how could I tell if he's an alien? Because, we were talking earlier about the elongated neck, the big head, the big eyes, and the whole 9 yards, and the hair. I mean, I know some aliens don't have hair, nothing like that, but I guess Calvin could be an exception.
Well, it's almost impossible to actually gauge who an alien is, especially if we look at what's in the Bible, for example. Those people that were mystical and had power.
Right.
Their atomic structure had to be completely different. And to me, it says that those people were indeed extraterrestrials.
Like a lot of people, you got to understand one thing. Back in the day, the chariots of fire, people that we talked about the last
Star
week.
of Bethlehem was a mothership.
And we talked about chariots of fire last week on another show. And I tried to explain to the guys, I said, look, chariots of fire is the way that back then they was a form of transportation. So when they say, well, look, we saw a chariot of fire in the sky, that's the way they describe the UFO.
Consider they didn't have a sense of technology, and 5,000 years ago, for a person to see a UFO, it is a completely different perception than a person today seeing a UFO, because we're more technologically enhanced. But 5,000 years ago, a person seeing a UFO would think it was completely something else.
Yeah, another question was brought to us last week. We talked about different shapes, sizes of these ships. I've heard people say they've seen ships as big as 2 miles long or wide, and some. It makes me wonder, why are the different ships? Are some of them warships, or are they?
It's just like the differences in cars that we have on Earth. I mean, there's a very strong possibility that the various technologies that are out there and the aliens that are there are indeed using different kinds of spacecraft.
I'll tell you what. Hey, don't go anywhere. We got some bills that got to be paid, and we'll be back in a few minutes.